Deal with Trump by becoming rich.
Take all your money, buy Bitcoin.
I say when we sell.
Wake up every morning and say GM.
GM, this is it. This is the day. Election day. Thank God. It'll soon be over. And then we're either going to have 4 years of relative normalcy, good markets, or 4 years of more bullshit for crypto in terms of regulation, clampdowns, government overreach. None of it's going to affect Bitcoin. Bitcoin's going where Bitcoin's going. But big day for altcoins and crypto in general. The investment flows, how attractive crypto will be. Of course, unless the Democrats get in and decide to not be complete dickheads. So I mentioned this yesterday about my expectations for either Trump or Harris winning. Really, it's not really a path prediction in terms of it needs to go like this on the black path. The idea was just that we move up and consolidate until the election. Probably, I would guess that Bitcoin doesn't make it above the 50 here. I would guess it probably pings around between these levels until we have either, rumors of a winner or an actual winner. It's going to be probably quite back and forth throughout the night. And I think that when do they start counting? When are votes? When are votes counted? Yes, election by state. Because I know obviously on the West Coast it's going to take fucking ages. But when will we know who has won the election? First polls close at 6 p.m, which is 11 p.m. GMT. I think is the same as UTC at the moment with the time change. So GMT is UTC. So at 11 p.m. UTC is the first polls closing. And the last close at 6 a.m. Wednesday. Why am I streaming, bro? Why am I going to stream for this? So I'll probably be streaming till 6 in the morning. In some presidential races, the victor has been named on late in election night or early the next morning. Yeah. Key swing state of Pennsylvania. Recount would be required if there's a half percentage point difference between the votes cast for the winner and the loser. Legal challenges are possible, blah, blah, blah. In 2016, Trump was declared the winner shortly before 8 a.m. UTC. Barack Obama, his victory is projected before midnight, the same evening of election day. So that would be the equivalent of about 4 a.m. Hopefully Trump just landslides it. I mean, we find out soon so I can go to sleep. And, I guess that's probably not going to happen, right? And it's all about the swing states. So, Georgia. Polls close at midnight Universal Prof time. Georgia's top election official estimates about 75% of votes will be counted in the first 2 hours. North Carolina, 30 minutes after. Pennsylvania, an hour after. Georgia, Michigan, an hour after. Wisconsin, same time. Arizona, an hour later. Nevada, it could take days to count. All right, let's fucking go. Yesterday we saw huge Bitcoin outflows in the ETFs. Massive. 500, excuse me, some fucking bullshit in my throat. 540 million. Is that the single biggest day of outflows? No, we had a 563 on the 1st of May. And let's just refresh our memories here. 1st of May was the bottom. Where is the 1st of May? 1st of May, over here. There we go. 1st of May, stone cold bottom. Because remember what I said about high inflows marking the top? right? And high inflows, super high inflows have marked this top and 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 that one, and I think this one. And they also mark this one. But then high outflows, especially like extreme, tend to come near bottoms. I think this around the beginning of August as well. It wasn't on one day, but there was 3 large days of outflows, was near a bottom. So this was the second biggest. I mean, it's not even close. There's only been 2 that have been remotely close to this. So it was the 1st of May and then the 4th of November. Enormous, huge outflows. I'd much rather see that than seeing inflows. I don't know when people are going to realize this. You know, it's crazy. Like, we talk about this a lot, that high inflows are not bullish. High inflows by themselves do not just equal we keep going up no matter what. And high outflows don't mean bearish. I mean, literally, the highest outflows are coming near bottoms. But it's even more so on the outflow side, because I think when people see outflows, they just can't imagine why outflows could ever be bearish, even though it keeps happening. They just think, but it doesn't make any sense. You know, so if you're like firmly on the mid curve and you're voting for Kamala, like this brilliant meme, if you're here, you probably think that inflows are bullish and outflows are bearish. It just doesn't work like that. So why is there outflows? Like, why have there been such high outflows? I talked about it in trading analysis. I think that the market is probably just based on a carry trade, right? So whenever there's a high premium on the CME futures, which there has been, now that has closed a bit. If you look at CME futures at 69,160, whereas Bitcoin is at 68.8. But last week, there was a $500 or $600 premium consistently. So there was times when Bitcoin there was actually a $900 premium at one point, where Bitcoin was at 69.1 and Bitcoin futures on CME were at 70. That's the TradFi equivalent, that's the futures-based equivalent of a high funding rate. Right, so in perpetual futures, you don't have any expiry on the contract. So you can't have a premium in the price like it does there. You have a premium based on a high funding rate. Means every 8 hours or every funding period you pay to be long if it's a positive premium, and shorts get paid the other side. But in traditional futures, just dated futures contracts, which has been the way futures have been in their entire existence for 100 years, up until perps were invented, the premium is built into the contract. So the Bitcoin CME futures contract expires, right? So they expire periodically. If you go to like BTC and you type this in, you'll see over here, right? You have all the different dated futures. You got November contract, December, January, February, right? So every month. And as a result, if there's high demand, the price will be higher than spot. If the price is significantly higher than spot, such as $1,000 premium, for example, Bitcoin spot is 69 and CME futures is 70, you can buy spot and you can short the futures and you lock in the difference, which is known as a basis. So you're buying Bitcoin for 69 and you're shorting it at 70. So no matter what happens, you've made money. You've captured the spread. Now you have to account for fees and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it's clearly, I mean, this is one of the oldest fucking trading styles in the book. This is not like some magic voodoo. This is just classic arbitrage trading or basis trading, really. So the way that happens in TradFi, obviously, if you're using the CME futures for Bitcoin, you have to actually buy spot somewhere. It's not that easy to buy spot on Coinbase or Binance or whatever. For most professional firms, it is easy enough to buy it on Coinbase. It's US registered, it's regulated, they can use it there. But they can't access it on on Binance or any of the others because they're not allowed in the US. And since the advent of ETFs, it made it even easier because you can buy ETFs which track the underlying and get you exactly 1 Bitcoin worth of exposure if you buy 1 Bitcoin worth of shares, the equivalent amount of shares. So what they do is they load up on Bitcoin ETF and they short the CME futures, which is why you see the open interest rising on CME futures, as it has been, until the basis comes down, which it has done. Now, when you go to Velo, you can see this, and you can see the basis, and I showed all this in trading analysis last night, but we'll just look at it again quickly here. If you look at the annualized basis over here, right, it was a 12.5% annualized basis last week. It has now dropped all the way down to just under 10. Like I was saying, the futures were at 70 and Bitcoin was at 69. Now the futures are at like 69 and Bitcoin's at 68 point, what, they're 69.2, Bitcoin's 68.6, 68.8. That's the difference dropping. That's the basis dropping. As the basis drops, it becomes less attractive to do that trade because you're not capturing as much of a spread. Therefore, you will stop doing it. That's why you'll see open interest declining over here, like it has done. Open interest is declining as people take off that trade. And the open interest dropped from 12.5 billion to 10.9. So at the peak, 12.5 down to 10.9. That is $1.6 billion of open interest. So if you look at then the outflows, net outflows of 500 million, 550 million, you can definitely account a decent percentage of that just to people closing out that trade. So it's not bearish by itself if that's the case. Just like it wasn't bullish whenever there was $1 billion of inflows in a few days. Because if the inflows are from people buying the ETF but then immediately shorting the futures, they are not betting on Bitcoin to go up. They are not bullish Bitcoin. They are simply locking in free money. And whenever they sell it and they close that and they dump all their ETF position and they dump their futures trades, they close their futures trades, again, they're not expressing a bearish opinion on Bitcoin. They're just closing out that previous trade. That's really all it is, or all it was. And so, that's where we're at. So GM to that. Now, where's the chart? Which chart was that on? No, where fucking charts are all over the place. Anyway, I showed this chart yesterday. I had originally drawn a red path over here where we could go up, or we could go all the way down and touch off those 58k levels. We didn't do that. We moved out. We broke above this trend line, which has disappeared. There we go, sorry. Trend line was drawn with the adjusted contract. And you can see how it's broken out above the trend line. It's pulling back into it. I think that from here, though, because this pullback was a full retracement, it's unlikely to just rip higher and trend. So we can bounce into a lower high, in my opinion, following something like this. But I think this market probably goes sideways for a bit and has some kind of area here. I don't know exactly where or when it's going to be. But I think Bitcoin is going to end up building its way back through the range before a breakout later on. Don't know when that's going to be. My bet is December at the earliest. But we'll see how that goes. Now, what about the rest? Stock market is pulling back into the election. Both the S&P and the Nasdaq. The dollar is pulling back from its rally. Gold is just kind of sideways. So all is pretty quiet as we go towards the election itself. And as for the crypto market, total is consolidating above the bands. It had broke resistance briefly, but then fell back. Total 2 is weaker. Total 3 is weaker. So same kind of story. You have Bitcoin that had been leading and you have altcoins lagging. Bitcoin dominance continues to march towards 100%, where it's going to eat the entire market. Of course, it can't do that, but if only one day. And the memes, the WIF, GigaChad looks fine. Chud just consolidating. Sigma looks good. Moo looks like shit. Pepe looks like shit, but I think it's good. So I think Pepe is just going to set up, a while. So it's going to have probably a sharp rally and then fall back and then just have to form some kind of a sideways base. You're basically just looking at, does this entire thing form a higher low? A bit like you've seen over here. It set the low, it rallied up and it retested. I think the same thing. It will rally up and it will at least come back for a retest at some point to confirm that if it doesn't go lower. Wolf, same thing, lost momentum. Apu, after we mentioned it had started to pull back, it's now in a downtrend, high and low and lower high and lower low. You want to wait for some kind of shift in that trend. MOG holding up pretty well here. I think MOG has got quite a nice chart if it's able to hold at this 50 EMA and then break out from there. It might be one of the ones that can have a run in the next few weeks. And Popcat seems to be cooked right now. That seems like a pretty exhaustive candle. It's definitely lost its uptrend. It's no longer respecting its daily bands. Right? That's completely gone. Doesn't mean it's going to zero, but it means that this nice trend that kept going higher and higher and higher is over. And the breakout failed. And the pullback did not stop at the bands, like I mentioned at the weekend. It did not stop at the daily market structure. It's broken that. It's also broken the level below. It's also broken the level below that and the level below here. So obviously these two internal ones don't matter so much, but if you're taking that as a swing low, it's broken. And if you're taking this as your interim low, or you're directly before the high, all broken. Your expectation would actually be Popcat into a lower high and then down to zero. Right? That's just your first expectation should be this entire move will unwind. I know it seems ridiculous. I know it seems like it could never happen, but it's a trend and the trend has ended. So if that's not going to happen, what you'll need to see is for it to hold and then start to move up. And so the only way this will really be bullish for me is if it spends time going sideways and avoids obviously breaking any lower than where it is now. You see this a little bit with Sui. Sui was in a strong trend, right? And Sui's strong trend ended. Strong trend ended here. So let's put Sui and Popcat side by side, just as an example of two trending charts that are no longer trending. And we'll finish with that. Big day. I will do my regular stream at 5 p.m. UTC. Then I'll be off for a bit. And then I'll be back on after midnight for these election streams. I'll just be on and off all night probably for like fucking 6 or 7 hours. So GM to that. So Sui. Strong trend up, holding the daily bands. Popcat, strong trend up, holding the daily bands. Tried to break out. Breakout failed. Here's the important part. Broke the structure that led to the highest high. What did it lead to on Sui? 4 or 5 days of chop, a move into a lower high, a slow grinding pullback. Main thing, here when it broke, was the 25th of October. We are now on the 5th of November. So basically, 11 days after that break, Sui's gone pretty much nowhere. And so when Popcat broke its structure, which actually happened yesterday, because this one technically it held, it broke through here with a closed candle here. If you just go forward 11 days, right, this way you don't want to overreact. If you go forward 11 days, Sui or Popcat may go up or down or whatever, but it's probably just not going to do that much in that time period. The time for it to be chased or traded or followed or to be holding it or owning it, that time is gone. This was a nice rally. You now wait and see what happens next. And that same logic applies to every coin in every market. That's the purpose of having systems. It's not that it's always right, but it is very reliable to say the first sign you had of Sui not respecting its daily trend was over here, right? When it had that break of structure, it came down, consolidated, break of structure, closed below the bands. So even before the daily structure broke, there you had a warning sign. You've got your warning sign on Popcat. Apply that across the rest of your coins. You know, Apu did the same thing. We all love Apu. We all want Apu to go to the moon. But Apu has done exactly the same thing where it has broken the structure. Excuse me. Apu already did this. Structure broken over here, right? And has spent the last 10 or 11 days not going up. So you have to give these things time. When rallies like this, you know, a strong move up like this happens, the expectation, if somebody doesn't come in to buy this thing up and keep it going higher, the expectation is that these things will unwind. That's just how they go. I'll bring you back to Render so you remember this. Render did the exact same thing back in the other part of the early part of the cycle, I should say, right? Now, this was a much stronger sell-off initially, but I mean, who's to say that Sui isn't just about to do that? A lot of these coins are at that point, right? Render broke that level, it broke this level, and that was it. And you fast forward 9 months, and Render has spent 9 months filling all that in. What would you think if it spent 9 months for fucking Sui, right? Up and down, it looks good and bad at sometimes, and then just all that fills in. Why could it not? Well, we're in a bull market. Well, we're in a bull market here, and Render's done that. So why could Sui not do this? These are worthless coins. Even though they do real things, it's like the stuff I posted in Trading Analysis. I know they do real things. I know they have utility. But people don't value stuff based on utility. People value stuff based on, will the number go up or not? And the primary way to know if the number is going to go up is trend structure. Price Don't let price lie to you. Don't ignore price. The fundamentals of SUI were great here when it was breaking out of this nice consolidation and had upwards momentum. And it just flipped all the bands and it was getting into its early uptrend. The fundamentals on SUI are not great here because you're paying double the price of when it was good. So it was great here at $1. At $2, it's not great because the trend structure is not good. The fundamentals on SUI were great here because it's still a positive trend structure. So the point is, fundamentals will not help you to manage risk. Fundamentals will not give you an entry price or an exit price. Only price itself will. So keep that in mind. And that is it. GM. Big day ahead. G fucking M.